Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're tackling something I know pretty much all of us struggle with. You know that feeling where you desperately want to make a positive change? Maybe you're finally going to start working out, write that book, or just get to sleep at a decent hour, but instead, you end up feeling completely paralyzed. It's like your feet are literally glued to the floor. Well, today we are breaking down exactly why that happens, and much more importantly, how you can actually break free. All right, let's just dive right in.
Why on earth do we actually avoid doing hard things? I mean, we've all been there, right? Instead of just tackling our goals, we suddenly find ourselves doom scrolling on our phones for 2 straight hours or putting off sleep in what's sometimes called revenge bedtime procrastination. Honestly, it is so incredibly frustrating and it is so easy to just beat ourselves up over it. But look, here is the absolute most important thing I want you to take away from this explainer. This avoidance, it's not a moral failing. It is not some fundamental character flaw. It is an emotional block. We are essentially just trying to protect ourselves from uncomfortable feelings, and understanding that is the absolute key to unlocking your potential.
Section 1. Procrastination is not laziness. We really gotta challenge this societal idea that putting things off just means we're fundamentally lazy people. I know society, and honestly, our own harsh inner critics tells us it's laziness. But licensed therapists and psychologists have zeroed in on the actual root cause here, and it's fear-based avoidance. See, procrastination is deeply an emotional struggle. It's profoundly rooted in this underlying fear that either we or the work we produce just simply won't be good enough. It's really not that we don't care about the task. It's actually that we care so much. And we're so terrified of failing or making something subpar that our brains literally hit the emergency brake to protect us from that potential shame.
Section 2. The perfectionism trap.
Okay, so what's actually fueling all this fear-based avoidance? Well, it's the massive boulder holding almost all of us back. And ironically, we often wear perfectionism like a badge of honor, right? Like, it just means we have super high standards. But in reality, it is a completely crippling force. Here is a massive, mind-blowing perspective shift for you. Perfectionism isn't seeking out the best. It's actually looking for the worst. When we strive for things to be perfect, it means our brains are actively scanning our environment, our work, and ourselves for imperfections. It literally forces us to constantly look for flaws and find every little reason why our efforts don't count. Like, you might work out for 10 minutes, but because it wasn't this perfect 45-minute high-intensity session, perfectionism whispers that it was a total waste of time. It's just an exhausting, destructive lens to view your life through. So, how do we spot it in the wild? Well, there are a few telltale signs that perfectionism is creeping in and trapping you in that shame cycle. First up, harsh internal trash talk. Really pay attention to how you speak to yourself when you try something new. Is it immediately super critical? Second, taking forever to finish projects. If you find yourself up at 2 a.m. tweaking tiny, meaningless details just to make it quote-unquote right, yeah, that's perfectionism. And third, constant redos and starting over. If you've ever thrown away an entire project to start from scratch over one microscopic flaw, the trap has officially snapped shut. But hey, identifying these signs is your very first step to getting out. Section 3. Shifting negative self-talk. All right, now that we've identified the trap, let's pivot over to how we solve this. Because if your internal voice is constantly screaming that you aren't doing enough, well, of course you're going to feel paralyzed. So how do we fix that self-talk? Now, a lot of self-help gurus push this toxic positivity stuff, the whole fake it till you make it routine. They tell you to look in the mirror and shout, I am amazing, I do everything perfectly. But come on, that feels completely fake, doesn't it? Instead of doing that, we need to rely on a therapist-backed tool, which is called bridge statements. To understand why faking it absolutely fails, we have to talk about cognitive dissonance. Let's say you hate a piece of work you just finished, and you try to force the thought, I am a brilliant genius. Well, your brain experiences cognitive dissonance. It immediately scans its databanks, realizes it has absolutely zero factual evidence to support that extreme claim, and aggressively kicks the thought right out. It treats that forced positivity like a blatant lie. And ironically, that just reinforces your negative feelings and keeps you stuck right where you started. And that brings us to the beauty of the bridge statement. Let's construct one together right now. Step 1 is simply recognizing the harsh thought. Let's say your brain is yelling, I'm not good enough. Step 2 is the bridge. Instead of jumping all the way to I am perfect, you simply tell yourself, I am open to the possibility that I might not be terrible. Now, I know it sounds almost comically slight, right? But the reason this is so wildly effective is because it opens your brain to possibility without triggering that cognitive dissonance. Your brain goes, okay, not terrible. Yeah, sure, we have enough evidence to support that. It creates this neutral bridge over your paralysis, allowing you to actually take action.
Section 4, the 5-minute rule. And taking action is exactly what we need to focus on next. How do we physically get up off the couch when every fiber of our being is screaming to stay put? Well, before we answer that, we have got to bust one of the biggest myths in modern psychology, the idea that you have to feel motivated before you start. The truth, motivation actually follows action. We all sit around waiting for motivation to just strike us like lightning so we can finally start our workout or begin that big project. But motivation simply doesn't work that way. It is generated through taking action. It's the spark that only catches fire after you start rubbing the sticks together.
And the single easiest way to generate that spark is by using the 5-minute rule. It is genuinely the ultimate low barrier tool to trick your brain into starting. Because when you're dreading a task, staring at the entire mountain of work ahead of you is just completely overwhelming. So don't look at the mountain. You just commit to 5 minutes. That's it. If you want to work out, but you're feeling exhausted, tell yourself you'll just march in place or do some light stretching for exactly 5 minutes. If you want to go to bed earlier, but you're clinging to your me time, just move your bedtime up by 5 short minutes. So, why does this tiny little increment work so incredibly well? Well, it essentially connects behavioral therapy directly to physics. Like Isaac Newton famously said, objects in motion stay in motion. When you just force yourself through a mere 5 minutes of action, you break the paralysis, you break that static friction that was holding you in place. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, once you've done those first 5 minutes, you find that doing minute 6, 7, and 10 feels surprisingly easy. You've naturally built up momentum. And hey, even if you genuinely stop at 5 minutes, you still did 5 minutes. That absolutely counts.
But okay, what happens when that nasty perfectionist voice sneaks back in and tries to tell you 5 minutes isn't enough to matter? Here is exactly how you sustain that momentum and protect your wins. First, argue back against perfectionism. When it tells you it wasn't a real workout, say out loud, no, 5 minutes is exactly what I committed to and I did it. Second, give yourself credit for starting. Celebrate that tiny win. Acknowledging it actually releases dopamine, which makes your brain want to do it again tomorrow. And third, really lean into your personal agency. Remind yourself that life isn't just happening to you. You made a conscious choice to take action. You are in the driver's seat.
We have covered a ton of ground today. We've completely reframed procrastination, dismantled that awful perfectionism trap, built some solid bridge statements, and even learned the physics of motivation. So I want to leave you with one final, empowering question. What will you choose to do with your next 5 minutes? Because you have the tools now. The very second this screen fades to black, I challenge you. Pick one hard thing, set a timer, and just take that first step. You've totally got this. Thanks for joining me, and keep learning.